Hello, Tony, your deck architect here, back on my channel once more with another deck profile. So 2021 has been a good year for winged beasts. While the typing has, in recent years, seen very little success in the top echelons of competitive play, 2021 saw the release of several powerful support cards for the feathered variety. And this, in turn, has helped the typing have a great showing this year. Starting as early as May with Lightning Overdrive, we got the full breadth of the Tri-Brigade support, propelling a variety of winged beasts like Samorg and Apex Avian into prominence as side engines for that archetype. Then in November with Synchro Storm, we got additional Lyrilisc support, helping that archetype see competitive success as either a standalone deck or as a Tri-Brigade Lyrilisc variant known as Bird Up. And closing out the year, Burst of Destiny continues this trend with the introduction of another powerful winged beast archetype, that being the one that we're covering today in the Floowandereeze. Now, fun fact, unlike most archetypes, the Floowandereeze are not a group of related characters. The Floowandereeze are, in reality, the three blue birds that appear in the artwork of each of this archetype's cards. Thematically, each card tells an event revolving around these three birds. These events, when pieced together, tell the tale of three brothers as they attempt to embark on a migratory worldwide trip south for the winter. Playstyle-wise, the Floowandereeze operate very similar to Monarchs, focusing on swarming the field to set up powerful tribute summons. However, unlike Monarchs, or most swarm decks for that matter, the Floowandereeze forego any concept of special summoning in lieu of facilitating multiple normal summons in a turn. Most of the Floowandereeze pack various options to initiate normal summons on either turn, and built-in searching and recursion to consistently output their boss monsters. This unorthodox strategy allows the deck to fly under the bar of general meta countering cards, while also allowing the deck to play set cards without impediment. And all that culminates into a surprisingly consistent deck that can very easily play tempo against the meta's current top dogs. And hopefully I can showcase some of these things as I get through the deck profile. Anyway, I've droned on enough. Without a further ado, let's get into the deck profile. Starting things off, we have the four smaller monsters that form the bulk of our tribute fodder. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the Floowandereeze cards are, in fact, choice events that occur throughout the Floowandereeze's trip south. The monsters detail the Floowandereeze's encounter with some of the local avians at various locations. Hailing from the posh streets of London, UK, we have three Floowandereeze and Robina. Soaring in from the bustling metropolis of the USA, we have three Floowandereeze and Elgin. Perching down from the tropics of the Southern Americas, we have one Floowandereeze and Tokan. And rushing in from the safari of the Africas, we have one Floowandereeze and Stry. Each of the Floowandereeze share a common effect that, on normal summon, applies a unique effect and then allows you to normal summon another winged beast. This additional normal summon can be applied multiple times in a turn, which allows you to combine each of these birds to facilitate chains of normal summons and unique effects. The ultimate goal of this is to amass enough monsters onto the field to then use that additional normal summon one last time to tribute summon for a larger winged beast monster. To assist this, each of the Floowandereeze's unique effects help you get you into the pieces of this setup. Robina searches for any level 4 or lower winged beast, helping you search into any of your other smaller Floowandereeze to then immediately normal summon it. Your primary search target will be your Elgin, whose unique effect searches for any level 7 or higher winged beast. This helps you grab you into your boss monster that you can then immediately normal summon by tributing Robina and Elgin. Stride banishes on normal summon, which can be useful as graveyard disruption, but also as a means of banishing your own Floowandereeze cards. This complements Toucan, who can retrieve banished Floowandereeze cards to act as pseudo recursion with your Stride. Speaking of recursion, the smaller Floowandereeze monsters banish themselves if they leave the field, including when tributed, and can re-add themselves from the banish whenever a winged beast is normal summoned. This not only provides the deck a degree of recurable fodder, but also allows the deck to chain block its normal summons, allowing you to normal summon any smaller Floowandereeze to trigger its effect as Chainlink 1, and then layer the add-back effects of your banished Floowandereeze as Chainlink 2 onward. This of course protects your Floowandereeze effects from direct negation, but also puts your banished Floowandereeze monsters back in your hand to be viable normal summons for the resolving Chainlink 1 Floowandereeze effect. Utilizing this strategy effectively, you can limit the amount of responses that your opponent can make when executing your plays, while also guaranteeing consistent access to all your Floowandereeze monsters once you get them into public circulation. With the smaller encounters now covered, we then move on to the culmination of the Floowandereeze's migratory trip south in 2 Floowandereeze and M-Pen. M-Pen, when tribute summoned, searches for any Floowandereeze spell or trap, and then allows you to normal summon any monster. Searching for a Floowandereeze back row is very nice, as it allows you to either grab a spell for follow-up or a trap for disruption. And the additional normal summon provides you the opportunity to further combo into another big boss monster. Additionally, it's important to point out that M-Pen allows you to normal summon any monster, not just a winged beast monster, opening up the deck to non-archetypal plays. In addition to its on-summon effect, M-Pen also has a lockdown effect, which prevents special summon monsters in attack position from activating their effects. Against decks utilizing synchros, fusions, or Xyz, this throttles their offense as they're forced to summon their monsters in defense position to utilize their effects. But against link focused decks, this effect is equivalent to a one-sided vanity ruler, preventing your opponent from activating any of their effects. Backing that lockdown effect is M-Pen's quick effect. Should your opponent manage to put up a monster large enough to challenge M-Pen's 2700 attack in battle, M-Pen can, during damage calculation, banish a card from your hand to halve the opposing monster's attack, meaning that your opponent has to output a minimum of 5400 attack to clear your M-Pen. This helps M-Pen better stick to the field, which in turn limits your opponent's options to pave a clearer way into a follow-up play. Finally, rounding off the monsters, we have a few off-theme cards that synergize fantastically well with the Floowandereeze strategy. Our first 2, searchable by Elgin, are our 1 Mist Valley Apex Avian and 1 Ryza the Mega Monarch. Both act as secondary boss monsters to help close out games. Apex Avian provides a deck Omni Negation, covering up aspects of matchups that M-Pen does not. Ryza, on the other hand, acts as a means of direct removal, helping you clear wide fields to then go in for massive damage. Then our final 2, searchable by Robina, are our 1 Wind Barrier Statue and 1 DD Crow. Both operate as alternative tech options against certain matchups. Since we don't special summon, Wind Barrier Statue is a blowout against special summon only decks. DD Crow, on the other hand, acts as a fantastic disruption against decks with Graveyard Recursion, operating as a secondary Stry in a pinch to stop plays. Regardless, all 4 of these cards are optional techs for the deck. Realistically, you can opt to not play the DD Crow given your existing access to Stry, or choose to avoid Ryza as we do have other in-theme means of removal. But the main point to learn here is that the Floowandereeze, through its generic support of winged beasts, can play these options to have better matches against whatever meta landscape it goes into. Going into the spells, the Floowandereeze spells thematically represent locations that our 3 birds have visited. Representing the entire flight plan, however, is our field spell in our 3 Floowandereeze and Magnificent map. Like any good map, Magnificent map charts the course for how our deck can optimally play. While in play, Magnificent map allows you to reveal a level 1 Floowandereeze in your hand, to banish a level 1 Floowandereeze from your deck, to then normal summon the revealed monster. This sole effect generates massive setup for the deck, allowing you to banish any Floowandereeze from deck to then facilitate the additional normal summon required to trigger its react, which, in combination with whatever Floowandereeze you normal summon, allows you to immediately make use of that banished monster. By banishing either an Elgin or Robina, this practically sets you up with the required cards to go into M-Pen before even committing your basic normal summon for turn, putting you well ahead in your plays. And if that wasn't enough, Magnificent Map also has an effect that triggers on your opponent's turn. When your opponent would normal summon a monster, Magnificent Map allows you to immediately normal summon a Floowandereeze monster as well. This is one of the two ways that Floowandereeze can normal summon on your opponent's turn, and effectively allows you to play on your opponent's turn. Because your smaller Floowandereeze monsters pack hard once per turn clauses on all their effects, this acts as a way to bypass that by triggering their effects on your opponent's turn to end on twice as many boss monsters before your opponent even begins their plays. Moving on from there, we have the other Floowandereeze spell in our one Floowandereeze and Unexplored Winds. Unexplored Winds is a continuous spell with two very peculiar effects. The first effect allows you to conduct a tribute summon of any 2 tribute monster by sending a card from both sides of the field to the graveyard. Now, to clarify, this effect allows you to substitute the normal process of tributing monsters with sending cards instead, which means that, while you are technically still tribute summoning, you are not tributing monsters to do so. This has a few cool benefits. At face value, this effect functions as a non-targeting removal for your opponent's cards. But looking at it deeper, this card also allows you to circumvent floodgates that prevent tributing by sending instead, giving you a way to play around these floodgates and also get rid of them via the send. The second effect allows you to reveal and bottom up to 2 winged beasts to draw the same number of cards from your deck. This effect has 2 uses. The first is that it provides a way to unbrick your hand, allowing you to bottom clunky tribute monsters to then hopefully draw into play starters like Robina or Magnificent Map, which ultimately can search back those bottom monsters. The second is that it provides a way to put back your birds post-combo to draw into Disruption. Realistically, all that is required to set up a tribute play is a Soul Robina. Once you see said Robina, you inherently have access to the Elgin, which can then grab you your tribute summon. This means that the only Floowandereeze necessary to keep in your hand is that Robina, which also means that the rest are free to be used as fodder for Unexplored Winds to get draws. Draws that ultimately let you see cards that can back up your board better than those birds could. Wrapping up the spells, we have a ton of consistency cards. Regardless of how consistent the deck can be, the deck still plays like a Monarch deck, and as such can brick if we don't see the necessary play starters. But because we don't special summon or access our X deck like other decks, we can also play a full suite of consistency to hopefully get us into those play starters. We're playing the obligatory 3 Pot of Prosperity as well as 3 Pot of Duality, both cards that let us dig X deep to grab a play starter. We have the 1 Terraforming to search into our Magnificent Map, as well as 1 Gold Sarcophagus to banish a Robina or Elgin to re-add it later. On top of these consistency cards, we're also playing cards to ensure our plays go through smoother. We obviously have the 1 Called by the Grave for hand traps, but we're also playing 2 Book of the Moon as well as 2 Book of Eclipse as well. Because tribute summoning can be done with face down monsters, there is no requirement that our monsters have to be face up for us to play. This means we can use the books proactively to set our own monsters to dodge targeted negation like Impermanence or Effect Veiler. Additionally, both books can also help when going second, as they can set threats face down to turn them off. Book of Eclipse in particular is very useful against combo decks like Sword Soul. At worst, the Eclipse forces the Omni negation of a Baron, but certain Sword Soul lines lock you into Worms, which results in boards of no Omni negation. Eclipse on these boards effectively turns off all their interaction, as it sets everything that they can respond with while also denying them a face-up Worm target for their blackout. And while it can be argued that Eclipse's draw can be risky, it's relevant to note that your opponent only draws relative to how many of their monsters they flip on the end phase, meaning that if you clear their field, they draw nothing. Going into the traps, like the spells, the Floowandereeze traps detail locations that the 3 birds encounter on their trip. Representing a sleepy flight across an idyllic town, we have 2 Floowandereeze and Dreaming Town. Dreaming Town is a normal trap that, when activated, allows you to perform a normal summon of a level 4 or lower winged beast. Like Map, this effect allows you to play on your opponent's turn by way of normal summoning one of your Floowandereeze to initiate a chain of summons. Unlike Map, however, Dreaming Town can be activated at any point in a turn, not just on our opponent's normal summon. This distinction makes the card much harder to play around and much more versatile in its use, allowing us to time our combos right to better disrupt our opponent at key choke points. Combined with an unexplored winds, we can even apply double disruption by having unexplored winds send an opponent's key monster on their turn. But that's not all. Dreaming Town also has an additional effect that triggers in the graveyard. Whenever you would tribute summon a level 7 or higher winged beast, Dreaming Town can be banished to set all monsters your opponent controls face down. This part of Dreaming Town directly complements its first effect, as you can use Dreaming Town to initiate a normal summon chain to ultimately tribute summon a boss monster to then trigger Dreaming Town in your graveyard to book your opponent's entire field. This two-part interaction makes Dreaming Town a fantastic form of disruption for the deck, as this card sets up both another boss monster as well as a field-wide interruption, thus making Dreaming Town your primary search target for your M-Pen when looking for disruption. But perhaps your opening hand already contains a Dreaming Town. In that instance, your next viable search target would be the next trap in R1 Floowandereeze and Scary Sea. Representing the turbulence of a flight across stormy waters, Scary Sea is as powerful as the waves it depicts. While you control a tribute summon monster and no special summon monsters, Scary Sea can be activated to negate the special summon of an opponent's monster, and in doing this, locks your opponent out of special summoning for the rest of the turn. But in turn, Scary Sea provides your opponent with 3 normal summons that turn. While this trade-off is intended to offset the lockdown Scary Sea provides, in most cases it does nothing for a deck that primarily relies on its X deck to play. Against those decks like Sword Soul, Tri-Brigade, or Evil Twin, making an X deck monster is crucial to mounting any form of reasonable offense. Scary Sea, by virtue of stopping that initial X deck summon to then stop any further special summons for the turn, leaves your opponent with a bunch of subpar monsters that they can do little with. This means that resolving Scary Sea against those decks effectively ends their turn, which provides massive tempo in your favor to allow you to seize the game in your coming turn. Then, rounding off the traps, we have the 3 obligatory infinite permanents for effect negation, as well as 3 solemn judgment. After a bit of testing, I noticed that the Floowandereeze can be crippled by common board wipes or blowout cards. Whether it be a lightning storm to destroy your field or a dark ruler to turn off your boss monsters, the Floowandereeze struggle in turns where you get hit with either card. Thus, Solemn Judgment mitigates this weakness by providing a non-monster omni-negate against your opponent's best answers, sealing up the remaining chinks in this deck's defenses to absolutely clinch certain matchups. Finally, going into the X deck, we have, well, 15 cards of your choice. Because the Floowandereeze seldom special summon, there's seldom a reason to ever access your X deck. And since we're not playing engines like the Dear Servant or Punishment to send monsters from our X deck, we also have little reason to play cards like Titanclad either. In fact, your X deck will most likely only exist to be cost for your Pot of Prosperity. With that being said though, that doesn't mean there aren't good options either. You can obviously play some number of Entis against a Dogmatica matchup, and a card like Tri-Brigade Sure Rig can also be sent likewise to trigger a search into any low-level Floowandereeze. You can technically play Link 1 options like Salamangreat Almirage and Link Karibo, giving your general focus on level 1 monsters, but be wary as they become sitting ducks once M-Pen hits the field. At worst, you can include options for a sided Super Poly as well, but be wary as you cannot special summon and utilize the Floowandereeze effects in the same turn. At the end of the day, the X deck has more purpose as a means to an end than an actual toolbox, so feel free to load it up as you wish with whatever you think is a problem for your current meta. And that's going to do it for our Floowandereeze deck profile. So I'm going to be honest here, it's been a while since I wanted to do a deck profile on a competitive archetype. And part of that is derived from a mix between being too costly and lack of exploration or interest. Highly competitive decks tend to be solved well before the sets they originate from even hit the shelves, and as such there is very little room for wild experimentation compared to a rogue archetype. To make matters worse, most competitive archetypes of this era tend to be highly focused on simple one-card combos, which itself can be rather boring. Linking this back into Floowandereeze, while the traps and spells allow for a bit of clever play, 90% of your plays will still be normal summoning a Floowandereeze, to then normal summon another Floowandereeze, to then normal summon a third Floowandereeze, to then tribute summon a monster to add back all your Floowandereeze. This strategy, while simple and frankly boring, is also the reason why this deck does so well, as it does this with a consistency on par with other meta contenders. Thus, I have no doubt that this deck will continue to see representation at the top tables as players get back into competitive play IRL. Regardless, this has been Tony, your deck architect, with a Floowandereeze deck profile. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys next time.